Looks like we're live. Oh, okay. I'm showing live for almost a full minute now. This is a terrible intro. This is a terrible way for us to intro the show to people who haven't tuned in yet. But what a weekend. Yes, it couldn't hurt. Meanwhile, meanwhile for oh, groovy. Because if we don't have a stream starting soon thing, people are going to wander in. We're going to be talking about itchy carbuncles or something. Yeah, I got. Yes, I do. I'm fine with that. I like this stalker. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I would rather have people show up than not. We don't really do anything to advertise this. That's true. That's the and we'll see how things roll from there, I suppose. We don't know what we're doing. Well, we know we have an idea, but what do you mean you can't hear Ericore?
Can you
Ericore,
hear
do you
me
need to press a
now?
button?
Yes, I did need to press a button. I've actually muted my microphone because I've never been sure which button mutes me and which one doesn't.
Oh, great. Well, Kitten, can you hear him now? I feel like the guy from that Verizon commercial. Uh,
Hello, can you hear me? Is there anyone at home?
no, 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 we're not going to do that. There are rules. Okay, now you're audible, so we can
Awesome.
proceed with the proceedings, I suppose.
Today
After
we
this,
have got one of those paper doll kits and we are going to basically list out the ingredients of what it takes to construct a leftist.
well, let's be a little more fair than that, shall we? I mean, I constantly refer to these people as leftists, but and there's a reason I do that in general because if you're if your political position can be summed up by a single word or the name of an organization, then I tend to not take you so seriously. That's a me thing, nothing to do with anyone else. But at the same time, I do the same thing. So it's kind of an unfair thing to just say leftists because so there are people on the left of good conscience. We're
Okay,
talking about.
shall we go with
I mean, we're
radical
really
leftist?
talking radical leftist, maybe.
Intersectional
But
leftist?
I don't know. See, this is also why I don't get all caught up in that kind of self-describing thing. It's because it's never enough and it's too simple. But we are talking about a particular flavor of political agitator, let's say. Would that be a fair assessment?
Political agitator. Yes, definitely, but there's more than just the activists.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's an entire hierarchical collective command structure that I don't even want to go into because then then I'm afraid that they might get into my brain. Yes, kitten. I'm sure I sound like I'm talking to myself most of the time.
I think maybe if we just go with intersectionalist.
Well, see, this is also why I've tried to, for the purpose of simplicity, I've tried to boil every political agenda down to its purest essence, and it always comes down to one thing for me, and it's either you're pro or anti this particular thing, and that thing is tyranny. Every political movement, I think, can be boiled down to be either pro or anti-tyranny. And quite frankly, there are more that are pro-tyranny than are not. But to call someone a pro-tyrannist or pro-tyrant, I guess would sound better. I don't know. It's a loaded phrase. I mean, I am more interested in discussing these things than just throwing out loaded phrases and
Yeah.
things of that nature, because there's more to it than just saying, "Oh, there's Jonathan. He's a pro-tyrannist."
The problem also with labels is labels are actually useful so you can quickly refer to a much bigger concept too.
Well, that's true. But
Instead,
anyway, enough about the label. Let's get into the damn meat and potatoes of this thing. As I said, we're starting off going on about a particular brand of political agitator that I do tend to call the pro-tyrant position. And yesterday, Ericor and I actually sat and made a list. Or hell, let's for the sake of fun, let's just refer to them as the name I gave them last Saturday, Lunacrats.
that works.
Just for the fun of it, Lunacrat. It sounds like fun. It's not as fun as Maniac, but okay. So let's see. We didn't really put the qualities that this group has shown us in any kind of an order. It just sort of we just sort of went through and said, "Do they do this? Yep, that's okay." What we were trying to do was figure out what their values were based on their actions. And the first one that got written down, which is like the third one we figured out before we thought, "Hey, we should make a list," because we're going to forget by tomorrow. But the first one we wrote down was impunity. Impunity seems to be one of their values.
I could do whatever I like, but God forbid you do the same thing.
Yes.
And I will face no responsibility or repercussions for anything that I do, because the reason I did it is somebody else's fault.
Yeah. It's I hate that. I really do. I hate that kind of thinking. The reason I hate that kind of thinking is because it depowers you. If you think like that the reason you do something is because of someone else, then you've depowered yourself. Essentially, you've made yourself look weak because someone else has control and they're able to manipulate you quite easily. And it's largely because you're not thinking these things through.
Well, if you want the perfect example of this, just
hit
take
me.
a look at Hillary Clinton.
Uh,
And everything pretty much that has come out of her mouth since losing the election, and even to some extent beforehand.
yeah. Well, beforehand she was using she was using catchphrase politics.
Yeah.
Sexist, misogynist, Islamophobic, homophobic, transphobic. She sounded like an old person who only had one tonal quality left in their repertoire. And she's continued that. She just did it again. She wrote a book on why everyone else was responsible for her loss after she lost.
Yeah.
And now she's once again gone on to say that white women have no agency is sensitive. Sensitive? Wow, that's a neat word. I wish it meant something. Essentially, she said that white women have no agency of their own. They have no willpower. They have no force. They have no power. That's her contention because it was the men in their lives who made them vote for Donald Trump. What a bunch of nonsense.
This isn't just specific to Hillary, though. We've seen this from the feminists for a long time as well.
Yes, we
They
have.
infantilize and remove any responsibility from all women and put it in the laps of men in the patriarchy. And to a certain extent, various other forms of the intersectional spider web.
Yes.
Black Lives Matter. We're just poor black people. It's the police that are oppressing us. Everything that we've got wrong in our life is the system that's against us.
Yeah. It's nonsense.
Yeah,
There's nothing worse than someone who tries to convince other people that they're worthless or powerless or meaningless. I hate that. You know what? I have this voice that works really good for what we're doing here. I have no more power than anyone else. I've only got 93 subscribers, for God's sake. No one's listening to me.
except
I
Kitten.
mean, except Kitten, yes. Yeah, so I take it Bill Clinton made Hillary vote for Donald Trump. Is she trying to cover the fact that she voted for Trump too? Is that what's going on?
It does make you wonder, doesn't it?
I mean, is she as insane as Pelosi and thinks that Donald Trump was running against President Bush? Now I gotta wonder. Oh, thank you for that, Kitten. That's funny.
Careful there, because we're going into another one of our words.
Yeah, no kidding. What is another one of our words? Yeah, they act with impunity, like they believe that nothing is their responsibility, and that's just absolute rubbish. Everyone is exactly responsible for their own actions. It's no more or less complicated than that. Let's see, another one. Second one on our list is deceit, and we've got more than enough examples of that one. I mean, look at the mainstream news media.
Yeah, I believe this word came about because we were discussing the likes of CNN at the time.
Yes. I mean, CNN's been caught in so many different scenarios, whether it be editing interviews or not even interviews, but editing people giving speeches, like the young girl who was, and I've used this example with you earlier, Eric, or the young girl who was saying stop burning our neighborhoods down during a after another police incident with some black fellow.
Really? Oh, it was the Ferguson thing.
I don't think it was Ferguson. I think it was after Ferguson. I mean, there's been too many of these events that the news has been desperate to cover, and now they're all starting to blur together. I only remember little bits and pieces now because I don't go and do all that research, and I probably should. But I do remember what she said in the CNN version. She said, in essence, that stop setting fire to our local businesses. But in the reality, she said, stop burning down our local businesses. Go find a white neighborhood, burn that shit down.
Yeah. They're basically selectively editing.
Yes.
It's lies by omission most of the time, rather than flat
Well, yeah,
out untruths.
yes, that's why I didn't say lies. That's why I chose the word deceit, because a lie of omission is still it still possesses the intent to deceive, and
Yeah.
CNN more often than I can count has been caught out doing just that. They've been caught out in a manner that indicates that they have an intent to deceive. When they call Sikhs Muslims, that's now you could call that what do you can call that a an error if you wish. But
Or if you're being really
based on
generous,
their,
just plain ignorance.
well, yes, but when you look at that on top of their track record, I mean, CNN has earned the reputation for being deceitful. A lot of the mainstream media has.
Well, there's a perfect example. I don't know how many of the people who will be watching this watched Stephen Crowder's 16-hour live stream, where all they did was watch CNN for 16 hours on live stream.
Oh, good God, that
And
would kill me.
they were even guilty of lies by omission and selective editing. 3 to 4 instances of that at the time, because at the time it was basically where I forget her name, but she'd gone to the UN and told the UN that no, we're not going to play by your rules, and if you insist that we play by your rules, we're going to cut your funding.
I
It
want to
was
say
the
Sarah Huckabee.
sounds about right, but it was the day that happened. CNN chose to selectively edit that speech so that it gave off a totally different impression to what the speech did, as well as saying that
Oh yeah.
Trump was interested in killing disabled children because he was cutting something, and it was going to make all the Tiny Tims die because it was just before Christmas.
Oh yeah.
And the news isn't the
Of
news
course.
anymore. The news is maybe 5 minutes of news, and the rest is just people spouting opinions with no. Because the good thing about opinions is I can have whatever opinion I like, and I can have that opinion and say, well, this is only my opinion, which to their mind, saying this is only my opinion negates the need for any citation.
Right. Which
And
is and you hear it when they say things. Well, I find that, or it's in the phrases they use before they state their position. They'll use the phrase "I find that," and then
or
they'll follow it with
I
something,
feel like.
or "in my experience." It's all disclaimers.
It might just be me, but.
Yeah, I can't help but notice. I mean, I do it too. I mean, let's not make a mistake here. I do it too, but when I do it, I'm trying to let people know that I've done no research in this field, but here's what I've observed.
Yeah, but when you do it and when I do it, because I do it as well, neither of us are trying to pass our opinions off as fact.
Exactly. Whereas you see a lot of talking heads in the media do exactly that. They're trying to pass off their opinion as fact, and no, sorry, ain't buying it.
Either passing their opinion off as fact or altering what has been said and doing the verbal gymnastics needed to make the narrative that they're trying to push not necessarily fit, because fit isn't the right word, but go against
Right.
what they alleged was said. It's,
It occurred to me. It occurred to me just now. Hillary Clinton doesn't use those disclaimers, does she? She just comes right out and says it.
well, I think with Hillary Clinton, she is perhaps one of the few of them who actually believes what she's saying.
And you know what? I'm all for that. I honestly hope she keeps doing it.
Well, it'll make sure the Democrats never get into power again, won't it?
Well, it'll make sure she never does.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's true.
it's what I keep saying. That's the beauty of free speech, and that's really what ruined her campaign was the First Amendment, because she was allowed to speak freely. That's what killed her campaign. It wasn't any big conspiracy. I mean, if any big conspiracy existed, it existed within the DNC,
Yeah,
and that came to light.
yeah.
But it wasn't a big conspiracy that killed her campaign. It was her freedom of speech. Because, as I've been saying for a while now, the beautiful thing about free speech is that it lets the villain out themselves.
Her freedom of
We don't have
speech.
to do we don't have to do any of the legwork or heavy lifting. All we have to do is let them speak. And I give to you Hillary Clinton as the prime example of that.
Well, I wouldn't say that it was entirely her freedom of speech. It was also her own personal choices. She chose to use the buzzwords from the feminists, and she chose to use all of the
Right.
basket of deplorables and attacking all the misogynists and Nazis or whatever else buzzwords were she was coming out. She chose to take that tactic instead of actually saying, this is my policy on finance, this is my policy on the education system, this is my policy on foreign affairs. Because,
Well, the other things she had going against her was we already knew what her policy was on Benghazi. We already knew what her
yeah,
policy was on Uranium One. We already knew what her policy was when it came to defending a child rapist.
and to be honest, I think if she had stood up and said, yes, this is something that I did, I've learned, I don't believe that anymore, and this is why, and actually stood up for herself instead of blaming everybody else,
Well,
she
that kind of
might have
brings us
done
to
better.
the to another thing on our list. Really, speaking of Hillary Clinton, two things on our list:
I think she,
intellectual cowardice and entitlement.
yeah, definitely.
I mean, it was her turn, wasn't it? It doesn't work that way. You're not 5 years old. This isn't a kindergarten class. It's not your turn. It doesn't work that way. You don't get a turn. You get elected. Or you don't.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of the feminists and stuff were going on claiming, well, it's her turn, but I'm pretty sure Hillary Clinton absolutely believed that it was her destiny, it was written in stone, and it was going to happen, and come hell or high water,
Yes.
nothing was going to stop it.
Yep. And her big failure there was a failure to plan for the worst.
Yeah,
And it's not even the worst. I mean, shit. It's not like she was forced to give back a bunch of money, was it? Because she lost the election? Did that happen? No.
I mean, in a way, I do feel a little bit sorry for Hillary Clinton. Just a little bit, because there's something that happened to her that was beyond her control. She bought so much into her own hype, into her own beliefs, into all of this nonsense that the day of the election came and she lost, and that was her entire world completely shattered, gone. What does a person do when everything that you know is proven to be nonsense, is just
Well, yeah,
disintegrates
it's
in front of you? And I think she
right.
probably legit went crazy as a result.
Well, I don't know about gone crazy, to be honest, but it's not an easy thing to confront. I'll tell you that.
No.
When your
And that,
whole worldview, your whole perception of reality turns out to be something quite different than what you had hoped or expected
yeah.
or believed, and it's like stepping on a rake and it comes up and hits you a slap in the face.
Now,
You know,
you, you
that's an
either go,
uncomfortable thing to deal with.
or if you're Hillary Clinton, you just turn into Sideshow Bob. You know
Yeah.
that clip from The Simpsons where he's surrounded by rakes and every step he takes, another one slaps him in the face.
Well, that's kind of where she's at now.
Yeah.
I mean, this last incident, even her aides are like, "Come on, Hillary, shut up. Stop talking.
But
Stop it."
where do you go when everything that you built yourself upon disintegrates?
Um, I'm not a big fan of the concept of slinking off into the distance, but even the best of us has to, at times,
Sometimes you
retreat
do
and
have to
regroup.
just go away and have a long, hard look at your life. Just,
I mean, there's that expression, he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day.
yeah.
And there's some value in that.
And now she's not
But,
fighting anymore, she's just tilting at windmills.
yes. Yes, she might as well be out there with a got in jousting. What is that thing called you use when you joust the big stick? What is that called?
Lance.
Jesus.
A lance.
Lance, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, she might as well have a lance-sized toothbrush and go try to brush the teeth of a giant lizard at this point, because that would make as much sense as what she's doing politically.
You saw that thing on
It,
Sesame Street when you was a kid as well with Don Quixote and the toothbrush.
yeah,
It just reminded me of...
except it was windmills. I know, but this is a bigger thing than a windmill.
I just thought, hang on, I've seen that on Sesame Street.
Oh, I don't know if it was Sesame Street. Well, wherever it was.
It was either Sesame Street or the Electric Company, one of the two.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was one of those kids things in the '70s, back when we only had the three channels.
And PBS.
Well, no one counted PBS because they only showed boring stuff.
well, they showed Bob Ross.
Well, yeah, but not then. That was later. I'm talking in the early '70s, where it's like, and today on Hours and Hours with Wicker. I mean,
Yeah, I remember him as well.
with that acoustic guitar in the background playing its non-threatening tune, and that guy's voice being like, "Join us at 9." No, these are boring. Put me back on the Super Friends.
Hell, I'll even watch the Soul Train.
Anything.
The 700 Club. Give me the 700 Club. It's more interesting.
At least there's a guy getting shouty.
Oh, screw you, kitten. I'm not old. I'm only 27 in my head. Leave me alone.
Join us at 9 when we regale you with tales about greeting card. Oh, gee, see, and I got nothing because it's so boring. I can't think of anything that's boring enough to express
Your mind
it.
is
That's how bad it was
purged
back
it.
then. Yeah.
And then cable TV came along
going
and
on.
spread to 47 other channels.
Yeah. Well, not at first, but anyway, we're getting off topic now.
It's the Lopez
But,
and
let's see.
Moosecow show. What do you expect?
Exactly. Oh, geez, that pizza's repeating on me. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Intellectual cowardice and entitlement were the two.
Yeah.
We covered entitlement, and the intellectual cowardice comes from just, not having the good sense. Well, intellectual cowardice exists on several levels. It's when the facts do not support your position, but you ram forward with your position anyway.
And also
Because you're afraid you'll speak if you back off.
Well, the unwillingness to stand up and defend your position. Instead of just saying, this is how it is, and if you don't believe me, then you're a racist. Or you're a Nazi, or you're whatever the buzzword is this week.
That's intellectual cowardice. It's because you're not willing to... You're too interested in labeling someone to attempt to silence them instead of really examining their position. If you examine your opponent's position, you might learn a thing or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are old farts, pagan butterfly kitten. Thank you for pointing it out. We're happy about it. We made it this far.
When you're an old fart,
when
you've earned the right to bitch about the world. Instead of being a millennial.
But here's the thing. I invite people to counter my position. I prefer it. Because I could say that every devil needs an advocate or something of that nature, but what I've realized in life is that my position cannot get stronger and stronger and stronger if its foundation is flawed. I invite the debate because I want to make sure that my foundation is solid.
Well, it has two purposes. One, it finds any flaws in an idea, and it will make those flaws glaringly obvious. And two, it not only teaches you but keeps teaching you how to think, which is something, is a skill that people seem
it's lacking these days.
Yeah, it's not as prominent as it used to be.
Right. I mean, and that's why I'm so upset that some of the great minds of our time have been lost. George Carlin. I love George Carlin. Okay, I love that guy's routine. I love his material. He's even more interesting to me when he's not in character doing his thing, because you can still catch the humor and the intelligence of the man. He really was a great thinker.
Penn
Christopher
Penn
Hitchens is another one.
Penn Jillette is another one on the quiet as well,
Yes,
isn't he?
yes. And, I don't agree with these people on everything, but I absolutely love the fact that they're quite intelligent and that they're able to challenge me.
Well,
See, it's the challenge that's important.
we are
If you're
slowly
if you're
replacing some of them as well, though.
oh,
Uh,
we are. I
I
mean,
mean,
thank God we still have Stephen Fry.
we've got the likes of the Jordan Petersons that are starting to come through.
Yes, and Ben Shapiro.
Yeah,
And you might call me crazy for this, but even Milo Yiannopoulos.
Milo Yiannopoulos I'd put into a different character category, but he's most certainly needed.
Yes.
Milo Yiannopoulos,
I mean,
as I can't remember the exact term, but I think Jordan Peterson called him the jester.
yes,
The
kind of.
jester points to the things that nobody else dares to say.
Right.
Brings it
That's what
into
the
the public.
jester's job is.
Yeah, and Milo
And
does that exceptionally well.
yes, he does. But the thing is, these people, all of them, and I'll even add Brian Blessed, because Brian Blessed is he's not known as one of the great thinkers, but the man's quite intelligent.
Yeah,
It's just that his field of intelligence, his field of intellect, if you will, is different from, say, Stephen Fry's. It's different from Milo Yiannopoulos. It's different from Chris Hitchens.
and
It's different from George Carlin.
they all
All
have
of
a
these
place.
people, yeah, exactly. There's different types of intelligence, and these people embody, I think, the best of their particular brand of intellectual fortitude.
I would even argue that the leftists that we're speaking about, the Hillary Clintons, the pussy hat wearing sheeple. Oh God, I just quoted Ghost.
And
It's
he'll love you for it.
It's basically what they are. Even they have a place if they just step up, take the seat,
Yes.
and put their ideas forward to be scrutinized.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'll give you an example. There is one thing that I respect about Anita Sarkeesian. Didn't expect to hear that out of me, did you?
No, I'm actually glad I'm sitting down because otherwise I'd have fell down.
One thing that I can respect about her is that she did not come out of the gate screaming. She came out presenting as though she had a good argument.
Yep, that I'll give you. That I'll give you.
I mean, she didn't start off with her premise was completely flawed. Make no mistake. But her approach to that premise and to putting that premise out there, I think that was a fairly good approach.
Yeah, it's once it was
It
out there
crumbled really
that
quick.
it was once it was out there that she screwed it all up.
Yes. I mean, her mistakes, and they are legion. I'm sorry I had to do that. Her mistakes were her major mistake is that she chose a premise that is so easily debunked.
Yeah.
And once it was debunked, she didn't alter her premise at all. It's perfectly fine to say, you know what, I'm wrong on this point, but I still think this is a thing, and I'm going to look further to see if I can demonstrate that this is a thing.
Yeah, when Anita
But
Sarkeesian came forward, it wasn't about presenting a conversation that needed to be had. It was about preaching.
yes, that's the problem. Is she
Yeah.
came at it from a socio-religious, let's say, point. She was pushing a religion, basically.
Yeah.
That's what a lot. That's the funny part because I'm an atheist. I see this. I know what the flaws are in religious belief because I'm an atheist, and I developed that sort of organically, and I see the same patterns of behavior with a lot of the lunacrat left that I see with the insane religious right.
Yeah.
They've got I know they've got boogeymen. They've both got invisible villains. They've both got doomsday scenarios. And I just, I can't grasp why they don't see it in each other and in themselves. There is no patriarchy. It's a myth.
Well,
Women in our society are revered.
more so than any other class.
Yes.
Everybody goes out of their way for women.
You want to know why the I'll give you a good example. You want to know why in the horror films it's usually a female protagonist? Do you really want to know why?
Because
It's
everybody
not because
empathizes with
it's
them.
not. Yes, yes. It's because our society views women as innocent and virtuous, and to see that maniac with the kitchen knife coming at the innocent and virtuous dredges up an emotional response within us. Morning, Patriarch of the Sith. That's why the women are the protagonists slash victims in horror films. It's not
Oh, yeah.
because of our hatred for women, it's because we revere them in our society. Hell, I
Yeah.
do too.
I mean, one of the big feminist arguments is that we needed feminism to stop men from beating their wives. That wasn't
No, we
true at
don't.
all because even before the feminist movements and the suffragette movements, if a man beat his wife and he was caught doing it, he was put on the whipping post.
Yes.
Rape is still one of the few offences that can be punished in places by death.
Yep.
So to
Who's
say
that on
this,
your channel? I can't see
that's me.
because I'm not full screen.
That's
You've
me.
posted in your own channel?
Yeah, because it looked lonely.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe Panina showed up. Anyway, I'm looking at tiny things on a screen. I
I
can't see anything.
I
I'm
know
old.
I know I need to fix the formatting on that. I didn't realise that the text was going to be quite so smushed up.
Ah, well, what can you do?
Not a whole lot.
But anyway, you were saying there
It's just
about rape. Rape?
most of the things that the feminists are saying we need to fight against the patriarchy because the patriarchy believes in this, that, or the other is actually demonstrably false by historical records.
Yes. Not only by a historical record, but also by legislation.
Yeah,
I mean, if we lived in a rape culture, if there was, I'll tell you what exists in a rape culture: no laws against rape. That's one of the signs of a rape culture. If there's no laws against rape, you have a rape culture.
and if there was a rape culture, you would have perhaps not on the TV, or maybe it would be on the TV, but in the TV, in movies, down the local pub, in the supermarket, in the local restaurants. You'd have groups
Well,
of
yeah,
guys
and
congratulating each other on how many people they'd raped this week.
right. If you had a rape culture, rape would be celebrated. It's not
Exactly.
celebrated.
Exactly.
Well, actually, no, I'm a little bit wrong there. I mean, in a rape culture, it would be celebrated, yes. But I'm wrong in saying that it's not celebrated. It is celebrated, but it's celebrated by the people on the left. It's celebrated by the lunacrats.
Yes, because here is a victim we could use as a weapon.
Exactly.
Which
It's celebrated when you saw it.
just that phrase all on its own sends a shiver down my spine. Here is a
Yes,
victim
and it
we
should.
can use as a weapon.
Exactly.
That is
That's frightening.
that's evil.
Yes.
I think that there's very few things that I've come across in my life that I could genuinely label as being evil, but that is one of them.
Well, it's a classic example of never let a tragedy go to waste, isn't it?
It is.
It's annoying. I mean, it's frustrating for me that it's not viewed for what it is. Because if anything, that's where our rape culture in the West exists.
Well, the only reason the
It's in
rape
it.
culture in the West exists is because the leftists are screaming that we have a rape culture.
Well, yeah.
It's
I
almost the
mean,
same for racism.
yes.
Racism in the 90s wasn't a huge thing.
No, even in the 80s.
I
Shit,
mean,
even in the 70s.
there's always going to be a handful of people that are going to be racist. There's always going to be a
Yes, they
handful of
always
people that are
will.
going to be rapists. There's a handful of people that are going to be murderers no matter what. But
Right.
that
You
doesn't
want to know why?
define the rest.
Because humans are not perfect and there's nothing you can do, there's nothing you can legislate to make humans perfect.
No.
All you can do is legislate enough to make people easier and easier to victimize. That's it. And if you want proof of that, if you want evidence of that, look at what happened 2 days ago with the big school walkout.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Drag races are the superior race. All others are inferior. I'll go with that, patriarch.
Oh, he's just pissed off all the NASCAR supporters.
Yep. You know what you are? You're a NASCARist or something.
You're a Formula Oneist.
Yeah. God, how long before that's a thing? You're a footballist. You're a baseballist.
Well, the
How
weird,
long before? I mean,
weird.
it's already infected sports. How long is it going to be before, if you like one sport more than another sport, you're somehow a racist?
Yeah, I've never watched motor racing, but I want my grid girls back.
I don't care about the grid girls, but you know what I do care about? I think, I think the women that chose to be grid girls should not be denied the right to choose to be grid girls.
Exactly, and
I find
it's
that
the
to
same
be
with grid girls,
absolute.
porn stars, stay-at-home moms,
Yeah,
anything like that.
whatever
If
they.
a woman wants to be something, I as a man
Yeah,
have no right to say no you can't, and feminists have no right to say no you can't either.
that's right. And
And
that's what I
they've
think
got
that's
no
what the
right to
feminists
force
really despise.
and they've got no right to force them into doing things that they don't want to do. Well, I don't want you to be a stay-at-home mother. You have to be a Fortune 500 CEO. Now, any
But yeah, what was
self-respecting woman is going to hold up the middle finger and go, "No, fuck you."
right? Absolutely. And I respect that woman with the middle finger more than the woman without one.
Oh, definitely.
I don't like weak women. I like women who have their own identity. I like women who strive to be what they want to be in spite of what the world is telling them they have to be. Those are the women that I love the best. In
That's
general, I think those are the people I like the best too, to be honest. In general. I don't think it being a woman has anything to do with it.
that's very
You
little.
know? If anything. I mean, that's one thing people gotta do, man. Just go out and be what you want to be. Be the change in the world you want to see.
Yeah,
Why is there a box moving across the screen?
because I'm rearranging the format because I can't read half of the stuff on the screen.
Oh, okay. Well, Patriarch of the Sis says NASCAR supporter can't turn right.
You
um,
you would think that these people that we're talking about would love NASCAR then,
yeah, really.
because everything is the
Kitten,
left.
Kitten writes, I love being stay-at-home mom. Stay-at-home mom is the new unique. Hey, Kitten, it's not a fashion statement. But by God, if you want to make it one, do so. If that's your thing, reach out, grab it, take it, own it.
You
Be
know,
the best damn stay-at-home mom you can be if that's what you want to be.
the thing is, here I'm broadcasting to so many channels that I'm lagging like hell.
Oh, beautiful. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, yeah. The example of, it was an example of something. I'm not going to rewind the stream to find out because it doesn't work that way. But yesterday, or 2 days ago, the big walkout at
Yeah,
the schools. Speaking of recognizing something for what it is, when are people in this country, in the West in general, to be honest, but in this is an American specific thing because it's a firearms deal. And yes, there is a gun culture, and it's lovely, and it's fantastic, and
And
it's what
it's,
keeps us free.
I was going to say, and it's necessary.
Yes, it is. I wish more Western societies had a gun culture. I really do. And a strong one at that. Um, what people are missing about this big walkout at the schools yesterday is that it's a state event. It's a state-sponsored endeavor. It's a state-sponsored political endeavor. Consider that for a minute. That's actually kind of illegal in this country. The state can't openly promote a political agenda like that. And I'm sure it's different from state to state, but in general, that's an illegal act. The state agencies are barred from picking sides. Basically, they have to actively represent the country as a whole, or their state as a whole. And I'm sorry to tell everyone, I hate to break it to you, but the public school system is a state agency. The state may not have intended to come out and say, yes, we think you should have your guns taken away. But that's what they are saying because these things were arranged by the schools. This is all a big coordinated effort, and the schools were involved. Church and state are supposed to be separated from the schools. Yes, they are. I don't care if a kid prays before lunch. I don't care if there's a group within the school, a group of students in the school who want to do their religious thing. I don't care. That's their right as far as I'm concerned. The state has no authority to tell them that they can't, even on school grounds. But you know what? The atheists get to do the same thing. The secularists get to do the same thing. Everyone gets to do the same thing. It's that simple. Now, I'm not saying you should get together and plan an attack, because I'm sure in some extreme cases that's what would happen. Hi, Mariel.
Here's an interesting thought.
What's that?
While it has yet to be declared as such, would you not, I don't know if agree is the right word, but would you not entertain the idea that feminism, social justice, and all the rest of the things that are entwined in intersectionality are presenting themselves the same as any other religion?
I would.
The trans activists as well.
Yes.
So therefore, I cannot come up to you and say, I believe in God. You don't believe in God, so you're wrong, therefore you must believe in God. I demand that you believe in God, and if you don't believe in God, then things.
Then we will censure. Then you will be censured. You will be deplatformed. Let's say.
So
you will be shadow banned.
Yeah. Exactly. Therefore, you could argue that places like YouTube, like Facebook, like Twitter, like the activists and everything else who are not presenting an argument, they're presenting a doctrine, are breaking the Constitution in the freedom of religion aspect. Because not only do you have freedom of religion, you have freedom to not have...
You have freedom from religion as well.
That's the word that I was looking for.
Yes, you could make that argument. I don't know how well it would hold up in a court of law.
No, it'd probably
but you can make that argument.
I think the reason that it fall apart in a court of law is that feminism and the likes has not been declared as a religion yet.
Right. I got Mariel in the chat asks, what's with the Network 34 YouTube? How do we explain that at this stage? We should have thought about that.
Well, Network 34 is basically, it's intended to be a network that's going to comprise of a number of content creators, but we're not just looking for people who agree with us. We're going to provide things like Lopez and Moosecow. We're going to provide things like American reality. We're going to provide also spaces where people who are on the opposite side of the political spectrum to us can also come, as long as they're willing to have the conversation, and it will be a place they can have a conversation. They can put their point of view across. We'll promote their videos and their content as well. Yeah, and I know I misspelled network.
Where?
Network on Network 34 YouTube. I just noticed the typo before we came on air. And I thought, nah, fuck it, no
What?
one will notice.
The actual title?
The graphic,
Oh, okay.
just above the
Okay, I
Network
got you.
34 YouTube chat window, it's spelled wrong.
Yeah, basically, Network 34 is what we plan to make it like a group effort, but we don't want it to be an in group. We want it to be something where many ideas can be examined and explored.
We want it to be inclusive, but not in the social justice way.
Right. Then Patriarch of the Sith wrote, "If they take my guns, I'll just make more. So do they plan to execute gunsmiths to make America gun-free?"
And is
Well,
it?
somebody does.
And is the new?
Ironically, these anti-violence people want to use the state to commit violence.
And one thing I have noticed is this gun legislation, should it go through, which I honestly don't think it will, and hope to God it doesn't include cannons.
Well, yeah, cannon's basically a big gun.
Yeah, but it's not an automatic weapon. You have to reload it
No, it's
manually
not.
every single time.
Yeah, by their own definition, a cannon would be perfectly fine. Possibly even a mortar.
Yeah. They really haven't thought this through. They
Well,
really haven't.
I guess as long as it doesn't have an explosive shell, it should be fine. And I got 2 words for you: model rockets. Just think about what kind of damage you could do if you know how to work with those.
And the rocket's red glare, the bomb bursting in air.
Gave proof through overnight what we still had our flag. Yes, I know the actual words, but I find humor in butchering it for the sake of humor.
I'll scream
Because
if I want to. It's my damn show.
Oh no, she's talking. Pagan was saying no screaming in reference to the whole concept behind Network 34. Yeah, it's basically like a there's going to be screaming. I mean, come on. I mean,
The best
sometimes when
debates
I'm
are
on
heated
when I'm
ones.
really on about something, I catch myself doing it every time. When I'm like chest deep in one of my rants, I catch myself on each point. I am physically pointing at my computer screen
The best
as
debates
I'm talking.
are the
It's
heated
just
ones, and the
insane.
heated ones come from passion, and with passion comes screaming. So I'm perfectly happy for there to be screaming, so long as it's the right sort.
Yeah, I mean it really is hard to define, because no matter how we define it, there's going to be someone who comes along who's going to want to smear it with their own definition.
Yeah,
And it's going to be up to us to tell them each and every time they do that no, you don't get to do that. You don't get to define us. We define ourselves. Thank you very much.
I mean the thing is, I'm sure that there's a lot of reasonable people on the left. I
There
mean,
are.
you got people like Dave Rubin, who's on the left. You get
Yes.
people like Sargon of Akkad, who admits
Sargon of Akkad. Yep.
he admits himself he's on the left, but doesn't like.
Well, to be honest,
Well,
in many
it's-
ways, so am I.
I suppose most
I mean,
people actually are. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got nothing. I've got nothing wrong with a liberalist society, but there does have to be the social safety net for the people who, through no fault of their own, find themselves on the wrong side of luck.
Well, safety net, yes. But a safety net is not a career choice.
Exactly.
I mean, that's something that that's the kind of thing I'd be called a racist for saying. For whatever reason, it has nothing to do with race, but I'd be called a racist for saying it.
No doubt.
Now, there are reasonable people on the left, Patriarch. We just gave you 2 examples. I mean, I have I have my left-based ideas. Gay marriage, for example, I'm actually all for it, but I'm not for it for the reasons that they are.
Oh no, we don't
There's
intend to.
that's the distinction.
I see what Patriarch of the Sith is saying. We don't intend to go down the blood sport route because, yeah, I've
No,
watched that show that I'm not going to mention, and they don't provide
they don't
anything
resolve anything.
constructive. They don't
Right?
add to the conversation. They just tear things that other people have made down, and that is never going to be productive. That's what the left
No,
does, or tries to.
exactly. Well, they're deconstructionists,
Yeah,
and I'm not trying to deconstruct. I'm trying to build.
exactly.
I want to move forward and upward. Oh, onward and upward, as they say.
And to a
But
sense,
just
capitalism or the capitalist machine will dictate what works and what doesn't on Network 34. If you go on Network 34 and you get lots of viewers, then yeah, welcome to Network 34. If you go on Network 34 and people downvote everything that you put on there, eventually the market forces are going to speak. And they're going to
yes.
say that this person, no, we don't like them. Can we have somebody who we do like instead?
But
Somebody
I
who's
want to clarify.
entertaining, somebody who is providing something of value.
I want to clarify my position on the gay marriage for everyone, and I'm sure everyone knows it, but I'm going to clarify it anyway. Like what the kitten just wrote. She just wrote, "I do believe people deserve to be happy. If a man loves a man or vice versa, so be it. I'm not in their relationship." That is one thing that I agree with. It's not my place to interject my values on other people. To express my values to other people, sure, but not to interject them. There's a difference.
Yeah.
I'll share them all day long. If they wanna grab a hold of those values and run, that's fine. But my main reason for being all for gay marriage is that it's not specifically denied by the Constitution. And the truth of the matter is, marriage is based in contract law. And our government has no authority, has no constitutional authority to interfere with two people contracting together when no harm is being done. The government just simply lacks that authority. It's not their place to say it has to be a man and a woman. That's
Exactly.
my only that's my major sticking point. The government doesn't have the authority.
The thing that worries
So
the thing that worries me about marriage, though, is that marriage is not a contract between two people. Because
not anymore.
no, the state is always injected with it.
Yes, and the state does not have the. It's wrong for the state to be involved
Yeah,
in any way. I mean, marriage has just become another BS reason for the state to inject itself into people's lives.
yeah.
The state has no place there. Get out. This is not your room. Go to your room.
And oddly enough, that segues into one of our next words:
Which one?
hypocrisy.
Oh, yes. In what way?
So, like, yeah, it does, doesn't it? How?
I was I was waiting. I was waiting for you to continue.
Well, if you look at what I will describe as the left, because I don't want a paragraph when I can use a word, and that I'm just being lazy.
All right.
The left, there's an yeah, yeah. I should have put a bingo card up in the background instead of the Lopez and Moosecow thing. But the left is very much, we say that you should do this, but they don't do it themselves. They scream. The biggest example that I can think of that really irritates me is racism. We're allowed to call anybody we want racist, but you can't call us racist for discriminating against an entire group of people.
Right.
The whole...
Or the opposite of that. You can't call them racist for discriminating for an entire group of people.
Very true.
I mean, if anything...
The BBC being a perfect example, where you've got jobs that Now the BBC, I could agree with them discriminating if they were doing a historical drama based in Africa and they wanted to hire only a black person for the job of playing a black
Well,
person.
let's interject some realism here, some historical realism. If
But
you're
hang
doing,
on, hang on, I haven't finished.
I'm okay. I'm sorry. Pray
But
continue.
but when you get to doing the behind the scenes stuff like the researchers for the news and your costume department, the people who run the sewing machines and stuff like that, and you advertise those jobs as British white may not apply. You're only allowed to hire people who are female, skin that's brown or black, of
Yeah.
a different nationality or race. That is racism.
Yes.
But it's fine for them, but it's not for us. That is the sort of hypocrisy I'm speaking of.
Well, that's the funny part is the likes of us, I think, typically do not engage in racism.
Generally
I mean,
speaking,
really, I can only speak for myself. I have racism does nothing for me. I get nothing out of it as a concept, as a practice.
you're right, Mario.
I
It is
don't.
illegal, and I'm waiting for it to be challenged. But nobody dares.
Someone. Oh no, because to challenge racism means you're a racist
Yeah,
for reasons.
yeah,
Because butterfly plus yellow equals 8.
yeah. But that's just one, and it's one of the more prominent examples of the hypocrisy that they have. They can talk
Well,
shit
yes.
about whatever social group they want to, and it happens to be white men, and to a lesser extent white women, but not that often. Asian men ended up lumped in
Yep.
there, and until recently, gay men were as well. But they're kind of thinking, hang on, we kind of need those back a bit.
Yep. Well, now they're going after feminist men too.
Yeah, but I think the feminist men can't. I don't. I think they have a legit case there because the feminist men have shown themselves to be creepy, rapey bastards.
Yes, but hashtag not all. I
I'm
mean,
amazed that we still have to say hashtag not all.
I know it's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah. Anybody with any sense knows that when you're talking about a stereotype, you're not talking about everyone.
Well, I'll give you an example of why you have to say hashtag not all. Because if I'm talking about the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars amongst a group of friends, and I say I think I think Star Trek is a better product overall, there's going to be the one guy who says that's just your opinion, and I'll be like, yeah. Hence the beginning of the sentence where I said I think.
Yeah.
Why don't you pay attention before you try to destroy my argument based on your disagreement with it. It doesn't matter. I'm not telling you can't like Star Wars. I'm not telling you have to like Star Trek better than Star Wars. All I said was, I think Star Wars or Star Trek is the better product. And now I've wasted 2 minutes of my life because you had to be a complete dick and go on about that's just your opinion, like a 12-year-old girl. Yeah, I said like a girl. Get over it.
But at least they didn't call you a racist. Which I'm not. Which I'm surprised they haven't figured
Give
out a
give
way.
it time.
Yeah,
Give it
exactly.
time.
Well, you like
Give
Star
it
Trek over Star Wars, therefore you're a Trekist.
give it give it 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
They'll have something.
Yeah. Mind you, to have something they'd have to learn about it first. A little
But
bit.
like racism just does it. The practice of it just doesn't do anything for me. I don't gain anything from it, even in that small-minded, kind of narrow view of life kind of way.
And
I just don't get
most
anything.
people really don't give a crap what color your skin is, so long as you're a decent
No,
person. You're either a
right,
good guy or you're an asshole. There's no color in that.
right. Assholes come in Many colors. I would say all colors. I could point and I could take a pad and paper with me, come up with 40, 50 names a day, you know, and I guarantee you every color will be represented.
But
The only equal representation we're going to get based on skin color is the number of assholes in the world.
yeah. But another element that really annoys me about that, and is a little bit insidious, is the fact that they're trying to police comedy. Now, comedy is the one place where you can talk about stereotypes, because stereotypes are what make comedy work for the most part.
Well, there was a comedian in the 80s, and he had a shtick that would work really well today, I think, even in this climate, because his whole thing was fine. That was his angle. Fine. Black guys don't have bigger dicks than white guys. Fine. Oriental people don't drive worse than everyone else. Fine. And that was his whole shtick in the 80s about stereotypes. And I bet he could. No, you know what? They wouldn't let him get away with it now. They would say, you're being racist, ironically.
I mean, the thing is most comedy is based on things.
Is it bad that I just put my hands on my hips and did a little jiggle like a twat when I did that voice?
Oh my God, the mental image.
Yeah, live with that one. You're not sleeping tonight.
The problem is, though, is most comedy is based on a truth, a falsehood that tells a truth.
Well,
I mean, to turn blonde jokes are a great example.
Well, then there's the comedy that is it's not about what the words are saying, but it's about the play on the words themselves. And a good example of that is 9 out of 10 people enjoy gang rape.
Yeah. Which is actually funny. Rape is horrible, and nobody will turn around and say anything different, apart from maybe that one guy who lives in Alabama, but we don't really take much notice of him.
Right, because he's got the good sense to, stay in the woods behind the house most of the time. Formulating his never emerging plan. No, it's not Carlin Butterfly, Kitten. It's I can't remember who it was, but it wasn't Carlin.
But I mean, that's the thing. A joke is basically a story with an unexpected conclusion.
Right.
And stereotypes.
I'm sorry.
Stereotypes play into comedy. They play into entertainment. Because if you're going to make a character in entertainment, let's say a bad guy, a villain in a movie is built on a stereotype.
Yes.
And then they expand from that stereotype to give him his own unique characteristics.
Yep.
But stereotypes exist for a reason.
Well, yeah, because there's a core of maybe not truth, but reality to it.
Yeah, but we're not allowed to mention that because stereotypes are racist.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know why, but it reminded me of being in school when because in my day, here we go, being old again. They kept telling you, don't succumb to peer pressure. And I'm like, well, that's all well and good, but what if the peer pressure is to be kind to people? And that's how my brain worked.
And the weird thing is you're in school and they're telling you don't succumb to peer pressure. You spend from the ages of 5 until you're 18 succumbing to peer pressure 6 hours a day in school because the teacher is the one providing the pressure.
Right.
You will learn. Everybody else is learning. Yes. Why aren't you?
Yes.
It's a different kind of hypocrisy, but it does kind of stand if you want to look at it from a very odd angle.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly what comedy does. It looks at things from it's holding up a mirror to society, but holding it at an angle.
Yeah.
That's comedy's job.
Instead of thinking linear, you think sideways.
Right. And that's why it's funny. I mean, it's either giving you insight from just by virtue of it being a different point of view, but it's giving you insight with a laugh.
Yeah.
which just makes the insight that much more interesting.
And it makes things
That's
a
why.
lot more memorable. This is why comedy. I remember back in the 1980s when we had Margaret Thatcher in power, there was a huge upsurge of leftist comics. The
Oh
people
yeah,
who were against the establishment. You had your likes of Ben Elton, who was responsible for things like the writing of Blackadder, the writing of comedies like The Young Ones. And he was a stand-up comedian as well. This where it's actually the time when the likes of Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie came up through the ranks and made their names initially.
right.
And they made, I mean, as they were also responsible for a lot of the stuff behind the TV show Spitting Image that I showed a few people in the Discord the other day, where it was basically poking fun at power.
Yes.
And in that poking fun, they were pointing out this is wrong, and people would actually take it in a lot more easily because it was presented in an entertaining format. It's exactly the same as Milo Yiannopoulos does now.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's what QI does.
Yeah, and
QI
because it's being
just
wrapped,
teaches you off the wall facts by entertaining you with those off the wall
yeah,
facts.
it puts a sugar coating on the. I wouldn't say it's not palatable, but it's pretty bland. Facts are generally pretty bland all on their own.
Oh yeah. But
Yeah,
that's the value in comedy. Comedy and satire derive from that same place, and its purpose is to poke the thing that's bigger and more dangerous than you.
yeah.
I
Which is
mean,
why the left are trying to police all that.
yeah.
They've already taken over most of the entertainment industry.
Well, this is the funny part. A lot of the lunocrat left seems to think that they're counterculture, that they're anti-establishment. Well, they're so inundated, or the establishment is so inundated with the lunocrat left that we have the word rhino in America now. Republican in name only.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how inundated the system is. These people are not counterculture. These people are the culture. These people are the establishment. But they want to come off like they're edgy and whatnot. Well, they're not. What's edgy now is saying no, everyone can speak freely. What's edgy is saying we're supposed to defend ourselves and keep the state free. That's what the Second Amendment's about.
but kind of
You know,
rewinding quite a way back to kind of the beginning of this stream, it's almost scary when you think about it. You've got the likes of CNN and the other news media networks that have got the left lean to them to some degree or other. And they can say whatever they want. And when you get like your comedians or your people like us or your Paul Joseph Watsons or your Sargons of Akkad or your Lauren Southerns who point and say, no, that's not right. There's a problem here. Not only does CNN, I'll just use CNN as an example instead of reeling off a list.
well, you could say mainstream media.
Not only does mainstream media turn around and then try to discredit that person, they've also, and this is very clever in a very scary way, they've also got a second arm, which is the activist minions, who then dogpile on the target. Like,
Yep.
say I'm pointing at CNN and saying, no, you're wrong there. Then the hit squad comes around of all of the activists and the lunocrats and all the rest of that then dogpile onto me, dox me, threaten my family, try to destroy my life to shut me up.
Yep.
And we've seen it happen over and over and over again. Some people are more resistant to it, others aren't. Some have gone under
Right.
it, then not been heard from again. Some fight against it, and even just fighting against it is immediate success.
It can be, yeah.
Because they don't
Oh,
know
like
what,
Jordan,
they don't know
like
what,
Jordan Peterson.
yeah, they don't know what to do when you fight back.
Right. anytime someone tries to pin down Ben Shapiro,
Yeah.
he just freaking buries him because he's fighting back. He's Ben Shapiro is doing his actions are how I view the Second Amendment. Honestly, Ben Shapiro is brilliantly using the Second Amendment at his speaking engagements,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you how. It's because the Second Amendment doesn't make any mention of firearms. It's the word arms in the Second Amendment refers to weapons, and he's using his free speech as a weapon to maintain the security of the free state.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what he's doing. He's using the Second Amendment with words. I mean, why do you think they want to get rid of it the way they do? I mean, it's not just about guns. It's about maintaining the security of a free state.
Well, the Second Amendment
the
protects the First Amendment. And if they get rid of the
Well,
Second
yes, but
Amendment,
the Second
then they
Amendment-
can begin to dismantle the
What-
First.
Well, what I'm getting at is the Second Amendment allows us the use the freedom. It guarantees us the freedom to use whatever weapon is at our disposal.
Yeah.
For some people, it's a gun. For some people, it's a video camera. For some people, it's a cell phone. For some people, it's simply their speech.
And for some people,
For some
it's a
people,
pen.
I was getting to that actually. For some people, it's the press.
Yeah. The pen is
Because I
mightier
mean,
than the sword.
just think about this. Think about this. If we had a good enough lawyer, if there are any, the likes of YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and Google could be sued on First and Second Amendment grounds. Because when they shadow ban us, when they inhibit our growth, when they deplatform us, they are denying us our right to maintain the security of a free state. They're denying us our right to use the press. The second we hit enter, when we type something, we have engaged in publishing something.
Yeah.
That is now a publication. The press. That qualifies as the press as far as I'm concerned, and that is protected under the First Amendment, along with freedom of speech and freedom to assemble.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to set up a peaceful demonstration and I want to let people know about it, and I put a notice out on Facebook, and Facebook decides that this guy talks about the Constitution, he should not have a wide reach, let's limit his reach. Well, there you go. You're now also interfering with my right to free assembly, or to peaceably assemble.
Yeah.
So, I mean, essentially these services, or these businesses, are in fact inhibiting our freedoms. They're removing our liberties willy-nilly. That fact cannot be denied. It's not an accident. They demonstrated time and time again. It's at this stage it is a pattern of behavior. Lopez, hey fuckwad. It is a pattern of behavior at this stage.
Fuckwad, you're too clever. Stop being so intelligent and witty. Lopez is in your channel, and 1 second later, Moosecow's in mine.
Well played. Well played indeed. You sneaky bastard.
Stop being so bright.
That's what they're doing. That when they deplatform us and shadow ban us and limit our reach, they are in fact disabusing us of our constitutional protections.
Mm.
I'm surprised that nothing's been done thus far.
I think I'm honestly thinking the only reason it hasn't is because the argument hasn't yet been formed correctly.
Well, yeah. See, the Constitution is written as as restriction on government. However, there are other things in the United States Code that prevent one person from inhibiting the rights of another. And within the last 10 years, I think it's less than 10 years ago, corporations were declared to have the same rights as people. Therefore, if they have the same rights, they have the same responsibilities. They're not allowed to interfere with my rights. They're not allowed to interfere with your rights. They're not allowed to interfere with Anita Sarkeesian's rights. Yes, I will defend her rights. I want her to keep talking. for the reasons I want Hillary to keep talking.
I'll even defend the rights of some of these radical Muslim clerics up to the point where
Oh,
they
hell
start
yes.
inciting things.
Absolutely. You know why? You know why. As I like it when my opponent reveals themselves for what they are.
Yeah.
It saves me all the hard work. I don't know why anyone would want anything else. It's a path of least resistance.
I think it was. I used this quote yesterday in our conversation. I still didn't look up who it was by, but I think it's Napoleon who said, "Never interrupt your enemy while they're making a mistake."
Yes. And that is, oddly, from Napoleon, one of the best arguments for free speech that there is.
Yeah. If you put your ideas out there, people are going to come and they're going to pick away at any flaws. And I actually want them to pick away at my flaws so that way I can look at my flaws and say, now how can I fix that? Where have I
Exactly.
gone wrong there? How can I strengthen this
You
position?
know, that's the same reason when you build a house, you hire a building inspector.
Or do I
Well,
abandon this position because it's untenable?
right. You know, I used to have a hard line on a bunch of issues. Um, Religion was one of them. I used to be that angry atheist, you know, because, you know, it lacked logic and it doesn't belong in a civilized society and all that kind of
Yeah.
nonsense. But my position on that has lightened up, has loosened up because I've become, well, because I was challenged on it. And, you know, how can you believe in a free society if you don't believe in freedom of religion? I'm like, well, you got me there. You know, when religious people started making that argument to me, that's when I started thinking it through a little bit more thoroughly. And I still end up in a position that I'm satisfied with. It's not my place to tell you what you can and can't believe,
Exactly.
but I will challenge your belief.
And if your belief is strong enough, it'll withstand that challenge.
Right.
Well,
And
no, if your
in a
belief is
weird
strong enough, if the idea that you believe in is strong enough, it will withstand.
and in a weird way, I want it to withstand my scrutiny.
Yeah.
You know, I would love that.
And
I've got friends who are
equally, I want it to fail if it's going to, so that way I can see the flaw.
right. But one of the things I want, I've got friends that are deeply, deeply religious, and I want them to be happy. You know, I don't want to be the thing that shatters their world,
Yeah.
but I will challenge what they believe. Not because I want to hurt them, because I want their faith to be stronger. I think if their faith is stronger, they're happier. There's less chance they're going to end up shooting up a post office or whatever. You know, it's for the greater good if people are genuinely happy, if their happiness is earned. And if their belief system can withstand my scrutiny, then that happiness is earned. I
Yeah.
want them to earn it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Fuck what in my chat is. I think we both went to the same place. Fuck what in my chat says a bakery has to bake a gay wedding cake, then Twitter and YouTube should have to let the people they disagree with have room on their platform. I've got
I
one
agree.
question on that. Was the wedding cake legislated into being, or was it brought into being through legal challenge, or did they just bow to pressure?
I think they didn't bow. They got put out of business actually because of that, if I'm not mistaken. Basically, they were not allowed to continue because of public pressure from that case.
Yeah.
No one wanted to go to that bakery, even though the whole thing was blown way out of proportion, and it was really just a couple of people who had an agenda
Yeah.
who
Because
instigated the whole
I
thing.
don't think legally they were told by a judge that they had to bake the cake.
No, but they were prosecuted and persecuted, to be
Yeah.
honest.
So
When
with that being
when
said,
the
if it wasn't legally mandated by a judge or by law, which in essence should be a judge as well, but if it wasn't done by law, then it doesn't apply to Twitter and YouTube.
Well, I think what Fuckwad's really doing there is he's pointing out the hypocrisy of the lunocrat left.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It was legal
I mean,
challenge. They closed
that's
after. Yeah, yeah. They basically went bankrupt trying to fight it. I think,
yeah.
if I recall.
Well, yeah. There's just it was staying in business was an untenable proposition at that point.
Yeah.
They had to close,
So
and I
because there wasn't a legal judgment made on it, then it can't be applied to social media. That's what I'm
well,
thinking.
see, that's the other thing too. You know, on the one hand, I would love for YouTube to remain successful or to start being successful because they are always in the red.
Yeah.
Because it is a pretty friendly to use platform. My issue comes in I don't want to get the government involved here because that's to me that's demanding government action is a bit un-American in my head. And I'm not saying that as a judgment on anyone else. That's a judgment on me. I think I would be a bad American if I were saying get the government involved. That's the last thing I
Yeah,
want is to get the
I
government
feel that to
involved.
be wrong as well, but it's kind of, I'm feeling it's coming to the point where it's a necessary evil.
It doesn't have to be.
No,
That's
yeah,
my thing. I don't want it to be a necessary evil. I don't want the government monitoring the internet. The internet should be a playground. You know, like universities were supposed to be a what of ideas. How is that expression?
a university should be. I want to say bastion.
Well, oh God, I forget what the old. It was an older expression. I can't remember what it was, but it was like a fountain of ideas, like a factory for ideas.
Yeah,
It was the place for intellectual debate and all that stuff. Whereas the internet should be a playground of ideas. You know, because a playground is a different thing than an official
yeah,
function. The universities would be like the official function of ideas, whereas the internet should be the playground. It should be that casual, not casual in as far as laid back, but casual as in
the sandbox.
without official thinking. Yeah,
Yeah,
it should be a sandbox. You know, my idea is a sandcastle, and the higher I go with it, um, you know, if that foundation isn't solid, that castle's going to crumble.
yeah,
Let's see. You cannot recruit the devil to rule something we can take care of. It's worse than telling on your sibling to mom. No one wants mom or dad involved in small squabbles. I agree with that, Kitten, but at the point we're at now, the stuff with the tech giants, it's not a small squabble anymore. These
the
people are actively shutting down dissent.
and the
And not even they're not even going after violence, and they're not even going after incitement. They're going after a different political idea.
and it's also these tech firms, your Facebooks, your Twitter. Well, maybe not your Twitter but definitely Facebook. With the way they're doing it, they're at a point where they have the ability to completely sway elections just by what they choose to report, what they choose to censor.
Yes.
And those sort of elections basically end up affecting the good of the country, the good of the people in the country.
Well, and there we
No
come right
one
back to
company should
hypocrisy
have the
again.
power to do that.
We come right back to hypocrisy again, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, what Russian interference in the elections? You know, wave your arms about and well, sky falling, Russian interference in the elections.
I'm going to
Meanwhile,
have
look
to
at what
let you
Facebook,
deal with
Google.
this one, Mitch, because I desperately need to pee. For
Oh,
all the
go for it.
for all of our viewing audience, I shall be two shakes.
More than two shakes constitutes a good time, and that's not what we're here for. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, everyone's you know, they keep crying about this Russian interference in the elections, but what do you call it when Facebook does it by silencing one side of a political argument? What do you call it when Google does the same? YouTube, Twitter. What do you call it then? That's not election interference? I say it is. Does it make it okay because they are American? Maybe, but no, it doesn't because You show me where a tech company in California has the right to interfere in an election that takes place in Minnesota. Why is that okay? It's still crossing borders and jurisdictional boundaries. Oh, good call, Patriarch. Because once mom and dad get involved, everyone loses their toys. Good call. Very well played. I will have to run with that one. But why is it okay? Why is it okay when the actors and actresses in Hollywood get on their soapbox and try to influence an election in Florida? Why is that okay? It might be fine for the one that actually lives in Florida and has a right to vote in that state, but why do they get to interfere with that election through the media? And hell, let's talk about the mainstream media. Why does the mainstream media get to push a political agenda around?
If anything, the mainstream media. I was sitting thinking about
Hey,
this
Mad
because
Woman.
we had this conversation about 2-3 days ago in Mad Woman's server, as it happens. Hello, Mad Woman. Let one of us know if you'd like to come and join us. We was having this conversation about the press and who keeps the press accountable. Now, here in the UK, this dawned on me after we'd had the conversation. Here in the UK, we have something called the Press Complaints Commission, which if the press go too far out of line, the public can write into the Press Complaints Commission and say, I'm not happy with how the press did so-and-so. And they then look into it from supposedly a neutral vantage point. I was just wondering whether the US had something similar.
Not that I'm aware of. I think all we really have is the free market system.
Because I'm wondering...
Basically...
Because the Press Complaints Commission isn't a government body; it's an independent body, and I was wondering about whether
kind of toothless, isn't it?
It kind of is, but it isn't, because it's something that goes way back with the press and the media in the UK. It was kind of a gentleman's agreement that we'll abide by the findings of this commission in order to keep everybody honest and everybody competitive.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of a handshake agreement type thing, but it's always worked over here, apart from now with the BBC it doesn't seem to be. But then what the BBC is putting out isn't what the BBC does in its infrastructure, and what they're putting out can be seen as two different entities.
We had Panina on the Network 34 YouTube chat.
Oh!
That I just noticed.
Yeah, Panina.
Now she's over on my chat.
Panina broke the Network 34 YouTube virginity because nobody's posted in there yet.
Yeah. But yeah, we really have nothing like that in the States that I know of. I mean, there's stuff like the Better Business Bureau, but that's a separate business.
Yeah.
And that really isn't much of a thing. But we do have like watchdog groups. But the problem with watchdog groups is that they tend to have a bias all their own, like the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yeah.
Or the American Civil Liberties Union. You know, these groups, they've done their part. You know, and sometimes they're right, but unfortunately, more often they're not.
I think, like with most groups, eventually every group outlives its usefulness.
Well, yeah.
Feminism would be an example of that.
Labor unions would be another.
Yeah. And once they outlive their usefulness, they get bored, and then when they get bored, you end up with what we got now.
Right. Just a bunch of sad people desperate to cling to some semblance.
Well, they now have to.
But it's an illusion.
They have to invent problems to fight against to keep themselves active.
Right. I mean, that's, you know, it's already illegal to pay people different based on sex. Has been since the 60s.
Yeah.
You know, problem solved, problem resolved, move on. When they're bouncing around saying that they don't have a voice, well, I hate to tell you, but that was solved in 1787.
Yep, everybody has a voice. You don't have the right to be heard. That's a different thing.
Right, exactly. I mean, you want to be heard, have something to say. If you
Yeah,
have
exactly.
something valuable to say, if you have a contribution that has any semblance of value, people will listen.
Yeah.
Maybe not all at once, but they will.
If you have
I
if you
mean,
have
shit,
if you
we
have half
started
if you have half a good idea, there are people out there who will listen and will help you improve it into a fully good idea.
right, but that's not working anymore because if you come to the table with just half an idea and someone challenges it, all you can do is cry racism. That's not a solid foundation on which to stand. You have to take the criticism. You have to suffer through those challenges to your idea to make sure your idea is solid. I don't know why that's such a revolutionary concept at this point.
But when
We're
you
so
but when you've got
you
an
know
elitist attitude, those sort of concepts don't matter.
well, yeah, and that's why well, it's a decadent attitude as well. I mean, and that's that kind of decadence that
Oh,
leads to the downfall of empires.
damn it, Mitch, you didn't notice my segue.
What?
On to another word on our
Oh,
list.
the elitism one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let's see. Oh, okay. Speaking of Crumpistan, how is that taxation without representation and no free speech thing working out for you? Uh, Patriarch, to answer that, London, Sweden.
Oh, London's a nightmare. The UK's
No
turning
go
into a
zone.
nightmare.
Yes. Okay, let's go on about elite. Let me go look at that list again. There's elitism, and I'm going to be honest here. I think everyone, in some way, is an elitist.
I think it's a necessity to be a human being, is to have ideals that you aspire to. The difference
Well,
between the likes of us and the likes of the lunocrats is we are willing to change our ideals as new information becomes available. Whereas the lunocrats, our ideas are right, end of story, you must believe.
yeah, but it there's a thing about elitism. It is important to have a thing that you strive for. It's good to strive to be the elite. And when I say elite, I'm saying it differently, in a slightly different context.
The best of the
Um,
best that you
yeah,
can be at whatever
yes,
you choose to do.
absolutely. Hell, let's put it into video game lingo for a bit with Star Trek Online. I mean, I go play that every day because I'm looking for that perfect build for my starship.
Yeah. And
You know, I'm
Starship
looking for that thing that's going to give me that extra 0.01% punch. And I do it because I want it to be as good as I can with that ship.
well, let's take
It,
it
it's
into
not
the
it's not about do I ever rub that in someone's face? Do I ever come off that way?
not really.
I mean, when I tell you, because you and I play it often, we play together, and like if I'm telling you, I'll tell you what I did recently. How's that? Let's see. You remember how I had that anti-proton build,
Yeah.
and I found the two consoles that give me more anti-proton damage, and I was only able to slot one of them
Yep.
because I wanted to have I wanted to have although I didn't want to lose any of my maneuverability. Well, I found a way to do it. I bought a second anti-proton omnidirectional cannon, or a omnidirectional beam,
Yeah.
mounted it on the back with my ancient anti-proton omnidirectional beam, and I bought, or that allowed me to get rid of my Borg cutting beam and my assimilation module, and I popped that second anti-proton damage console in its place. So yeah, now I am dishing out more damage.
Yeah.
Now,
To answer Kitten's
I'm doing.
question, I live behind a school and they're out doing physical education in the field.
Ah, yes. Someone streaming from prison. You're not far off, Patriarch.
I live in the UK, so yes.
Now, am I coming off as an elitist when I say that about that anti-proton build?
No, it's the process. Is basically the scientific method. Is trial and error to achieve better results.
Right. And see, when I'm telling you about it, it's less um, about stroking myself and my own ego, and it's more about saying, "Hey, here's something you can do as well."
Yeah,
It's information that you may not want to use it right now, but it's information you have, and you can refer back to me about it if you ever decide to move in that direction.
yeah. I mean, I think an
Yeah.
example of what you're talking about, everybody can relate with, because the Winter Olympics has just happened, is the whole
Yeah.
world of sports. There are people who've just been off to wherever the hell the Olympics was, because I paid no attention to it.
I never do.
But they go out there to test themselves against the other people in the world who claim to be the best at what they do.
Right.
And the one who wins the race is considered the elite. They've achieved a personal goal and have achieved the ability to say that for a moment in time I was the best in the world at what I do.
Yeah, and it's really it. How do you say that? That person is really only the elite in that race.
Yeah,
Because if they raced again the next day with the same people, the outcome would probably be a bit different.
it probably very well would be. They were the very best at that moment in time. At the moment that it mattered, they came through.
Patriarch of the Sith has given me all kinds of crap about how I
Yeah, I
should be
saw
using
that.
Polaron dual heavy cannons. By the way, Patriarch, I'm flying a Temporal Raider with an anti-proton build, and it makes things go boom because I shoot the explodium out of it. And upon impact, things tend to not handle such a withering barrage. I love it. It's fun. Got that out of the
Panina,
way.
for 1 week, many years ago, I was the top rank hunter on my server in World of Warcraft. I think I had a brief spell of being the top healer on my server at one point, but I never took much notice of anything like that. I was just there to have fun.
Well, yeah, that's basically my thing too. When it comes to a game, I'm there to have fun.
Yeah.
And even having these kinds of debates and conversations, these are fun for me. I enjoy it. I enjoy the intellectual challenge.
We are talking about a totally different sort of elitism, though, in this respect.
Yes, we are.
Dragging it, kicking and screaming back on the topic.
Well, yes and no, actually, because we were on topic. Because elitism exists in varying degrees. Do I want the best build I can get? Yes. Do I want to rub it in people's faces like I'm hot shit king of the hill? No. I get nothing out of that.
Well, this type of elitism also ties into another word on the list, which was narcissism.
Yes. And that, wow, you put those two together and you get the lunocrat left, don't you?
Yeah.
With a nice sprinkling of hypocrisy.
With a nice sprinkling
it's
of every other word in the list.
yeah.
You notice how I'm saving
it-
one particular word in the list for last because we got the nice definition and we both learned a new word.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a fun little. I was so happy. I was happy and tingly on the inside when I found that word.
But yeah, it's definitely an elitism through narcissism that the lunocrats tend to have. That,
Well, it's an elitism without humility.
or without the willingness to acknowledge that you may be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, shit. I believe I'm I am simultaneously wrong a lot of the time and right all of the time. Because it's just because of a stupid little play on words, and it's a philosophy I've developed and decided to live by. I can be right all the time by admitting when I'm wrong because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's when I formulated that string of words in that order, it so thoroughly expressed the idea that it just became kind of a rule of my life, let's say.
Whereas the elitists, they look at it, I'm always right. I've only ever been wrong once, and that was when I was thought I was wrong, but I was in fact mistaken.
Well, you ever work with someone, or you have a superior at a job who will not accept your idea because of your rank within the organization, or because you don't fit some arbitrary checkbox that they have. That's elitism. It's like, what do you know? You're only making 30,000 a year.
Oh, damn, kitten.
Wait, whoa. Wait,
I
now
got left
I
in
got to
the,
back.
I got
I
left
have
in,
reasons to hate the game because Druid lore. Well, only one really. No, I got left in the middle of sex for a dungeon raid.
damn.
Jesus.
There's only one word, damn.
Well, see, I'm trying to figure out which way I would go in that scenario. Now, I think I'd have to finish off and zip up first.
Yeah,
I mean,
you just start thinking of Pamela Anderson or something to make you come quicker, and then you do
no, Pamela Anderson, no way, God.
Well, I don't know. It's the first thing that sprung to my head, and that's only because I was watching
I've I have
something
I
on
have never
Phil
found her all
DeFranco
that
the other day.
appealing. I'm more into the nerdy intellectual type women
Well,
than
yeah,
I am into the Pamela Anderson archetype.
I was more Christina Ricci, but that's a whole different subject.
Oh yeah, let's not get into the celebrity face planting
The celebrity
for lack
bucket
of
list,
yeah,
or should I say the celebrity fuck it list?
different thing. Anyhow, yeah, the elitism that these people express is undeserved in a way because it's not based on anything real. It's not based on any accomplishment. It's based on a participation trophy mentality.
Well, in some cases, yeah, you can definitely say that, but in the case of somebody like you, Hillary Clinton, there was a fair bit of effort involved in getting herself to where she was, and
Oh
a
yes, I
certain
mean it
amount of
was a
luck as well.
lifetime of work.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't. As much as I despise Hillary Clinton, I will never deny that she spent a lifetime working toward that.
yeah,
Never
because
will
I've
I
got
ever. I
headphones on. I
will.
really heard that.
What?
My mother just did the cuckoo
Oh,
clock thing, said something at me which I didn't hear because I've got headphones on.
oh, right. But I will never deny that Hillary Clinton spent a lifetime of work getting to where she ended up. But ultimately, I do believe she ended up in the right place, and that right place is not in the White House. And
Yeah,
I'll leave it to her to explain why. All you have to do is listen to her speak. She tells you why she didn't win every time she opens her mouth.
yeah. She's now
I mean,
that
there's no
mad
mystery
person
there.
at 2 a.m. in Walmart screaming at the cheese.
Yeah, she's you remember that song by the Police, Synchronicity 2?
I don't recall that one.
It started off with the lines, "Another suburban family morning, grandmother screaming at the wall." Well, that's Hillary Clinton.
Yep, pretty much.
Like Grandma, you forgot your pills again. That's where she is in life, and it's in a way it's sad, but ultimately, I think she's ended up in the proper place.
In the way it's her wages for her efforts as well.
Yes, and as as a as Fuckwad says, a lifetime of evil. As I was describing that Hillary Clinton
Yeah.
spent a lifetime getting to where she got. Yeah, this is the payoff. I'm not. I don't know that she's pure evil. Don't know her. All I know is what I see on the TV and whatnot,
I don't know if it's
and what I
evil. I
found
think
through.
it's selfish.
Well, yeah. There's.
I will have what I want and screw everybody else. If people have to die along the way for me getting what I want, well then so be it. They're not me, so they don't matter.
Well, yeah. Is it an evil level of selfishness? Maybe.
It's,
Probably.
it's narcissism.
Yeah. But it's not like the ultimate evil. I mean, as far as we know, she hasn't.
No, that would have
She
happened
hasn't.
after she
She
won.
hasn't been. She hasn't been carving up kittens and dipping them in chocolate for a midnight snack.
Oh, I don't know. I watched InfoWars.
Well, it might have been a couple of different starlets, but I don't know.
Satanic rituals and all that sort of stuff, if you believe Alex
Yeah,
Jones.
yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. I don't. I mean, I am a big fan of the phrase "consider the source,"
Yeah.
which is why I don't. Which is why I don't think video games cause violence. By the way, it's because the people pushing that agenda tend to be. Let's see. Actually, there's another crossover between the lunocrat left and the religious right. They both went on about how these things cause violence. Video games. They
Always
don't.
a quest to
There's
blame something outside of themselves.
yes.
Or to
There
give
is
people an
no
excuse that they could readily use whenever things went tits up.
there is no evidence, testable or otherwise, to suggest that video games cause violence. It just isn't there. It's been studied. Because let's face it, you get a schlub like me who's sitting in his room playing a video game and being addicted to it, for example. How much time does that leave the schlub like me to go out and shoot up a school? I can't do that. I'm addicted to this video game. There's a raid coming up. I got to give up sex to go on this raid. I can't afford the time to go out and shoot up a school. I'm busy.
It really is bad when you think about it that way. I have to give up the one biological imperative function of my life to reproduce and to send my genes on into the future to go beat up pixels.
Yeah, that's a
When you put it that way, it really is even more sad.
yes, it is. I mean, I got to tell you, Kitten, that guy, that's not my kind of guy. That's just sad. But it's true. You know, if someone is that focused on a video game, they don't have time to go out and commit all the violence that they want you to believe is happening. It just doesn't work that way. You know, show me a guy, an overweight middle-aged guy sitting on the couch at 10 a.m. masturbating to The Price is Right, and I'll show you a guy. I'll show you a guy who's not out in the world causing any trouble.
Oh, God gives a new meaning to the term "come on down."
Yes, it does. But I'll guarantee you that guy is not out causing trouble. Who's out causing trouble are the people who are out there saying, we need a solution. Those are the people who are the problem. Because the things they're trying to solve have already been solved. Hey, Arthur, define trouble, shooting up school, pissing off a cashier. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, the guy sitting on the couch watching The Price is Right, he already went out and bought his Cheetos. And he's got his Cheetos, his Mountain Dew. He's waiting for the next item up for bid with a couple of different things in his hands. He's not out causing any trouble. He's staying at home, wallowing in his own pathetic life like he should. He's doing the responsible thing.
Mad,
Masturbating to The Price is Right is the responsible thing to do.
mad woman,
It's
check her
better than being
Discord.
out there and causing trouble. What's that?
I'm just saying, a mad woman to check her Discord.
Ah, and it's this is why you can't blame video games. It's because those people they just don't have the time. They don't have they lack the time and the interest to go blow up a school.
The only
That's a
people
that's a
who are
complete false
likely,
flag.
the only people who are likely to be affected by video games had massive problems before they ever picked up a controller anyway.
Oh yeah. Well, let's face it. Video games are a huge part of the entertainment industry in general, bigger than Hollywood at this point, I would say.
I
There's
believe that
because
has been proven to be true, to be honest.
I think the only thing that comes ahead of video games, ironically, is pornography, but that's another story. Um, and I'm talking about not necessarily in dollar figures, but in time spent.
Mm.
You know, in how much time you spend on them. Video games are huge. People spend a hell of a lot of time on video games. That means they don't have time to go out and do all this evil stuff. And really, I'd almost say that the people going out and doing all this evil stuff are the ones who have been told they can't play the video games. Jesus Christ, let a guy play a video game. Maybe a school won't get shot up. You know, because I mean, a video game is that kind of thing where it can be a release. Oh, sure, you go talk to a counselor, but that's not going to release anything really. Not with the energy that can be released while playing a video game. You can
Yeah.
release more of that energy with a video game than you can sitting and going over the same event for the 50th time.
And counselors only work if you're dedicated to the idea that the counselor will work. If you'd rather be playing
Right.
video games than talking to a shrink, there's no way in hell a counselor is going to have any effect.
Let's see, I saw a video of senior citizens that was given GTA 5 to play, and they liked it and said that it was something you can distinguish reality to fantasy. Yeah. I mean, it's a stupid argument. Video games are not to blame. That's dumb. But how does that play into
I mean,
how does that play into elitism or hypocrisy or narcissism?
the strangest thing
I'll tell you
is
how.
I've got a daughter who's, as anybody who knows me and has spoken to me in the Discord chat knows, is on the autistic spectrum. Now, being on the autistic spectrum, people on the spectrum tend to love games like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And such because there's a lot of things to categorize, statistics to learn, and all of the
Yep.
weights and balances that go with it. Now, autism comes with its own unique, I wouldn't call them problems because they're not, they're just unique ways of looking at things.
Right.
Which means that, yes, people on the spectrum can become obsessed with these games. But even in her most obsessed state with Pokemon, I never saw her go outside and throw a spherical object at a cat thinking she's going to capture it.
Yeah. Tennis ball, cat. Let's see what happens.
Just one
I doubt
pissed
that
off
ever
cat
happened.
and a bouncing ball.
Yeah. And
I mean-
and by God, now you have to go retrieve the ball.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Oh yeah, back in the 70s where they used to say that if you play, oh, who was it? Was it Black Sabbath? That if you
Oh,
play
yeah.
their record backwards, it has satanic messages
Oh God,
in it.
they tried to pull that nonsense up into the 90s, I
Oh
believe.
God, yeah.
And it happens every time. You're true. That's why dogs are better, because the dog will bring the ball back to you if you try to capture it with a tennis ball like it's a pokeball.
So therefore, I should swap my daughter for a dog.
No, you
Interesting.
should swap the cat for a dog and let your daughter throw the ball.
Ah,
'Cause the dog will bring it
I
back
see,
to her.
I see the logic there.
No, see, they do it all the time. The preachers did it in the 50s with rock and roll, and then they did it again with heavy metal. They keep trying to blame something popular for the world's ills, and it's not that simple. It never is.
What's the local time, Mitch?
I've got 9:23,
Right, okay.
about 9:30 in the morning. Yeah, because we're at the 2 hour mark.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about what time we need to start wrapping up so that we don't overlap with Maddie.
Oh, that too.
Yeah,
Because
we've still got an hour of
because you
bullshit
can
left.
find. Oh yeah, because you're gonna get at 10:30. You can watch
The
the
Morning Brew
Morning
with
Brew.
Madwoman and Merlin.
Yep, and all kinds. That's a news show. We're not a news show. We're a talk show. They're a news show that has some talk in it. We're a talk show that has some news in it. It's a weird distinction, and we have fewer things flashing on screen. But no, there's always some pack of malcontents who wants to blame something popular for the world's ills, and it just doesn't work that way. You know, the world's ills have been the world's ills long before this popular thing happened. You
Yeah.
think that all of a sudden we have video games and people started killing each other? People have been killing each other for millennia.
Well, it goes back to the Greeks and the Romans and the book burnings and everything
Yeah,
else.
I mean,
Anything that was popular and could be seen as a something that would distract people from whatever the propaganda of the day was
well, you know
seen as
what?
an evil.
Maybe that is an element of that narcissism that the lunocrat left seems to hold on to
Yes, put
as a
down your
value.
video games and pay attention to me.
Well, there's that, but there's also, well, none of this stuff happened before my time. You know, it's like they seem to think that the world began and will end with them.
Yeah, well, that's a perfect one of the calling card
Huh?
symptoms of narcissism.
Yeah, it really is. But what was that word that we found? Okay,
Oh,
maybe should we
I've got
go
to
into?
go. I've got to go back over to the other channel because I was private
Oh,
messaging.
okay.
Consequentialism. Consequentialism.
Yes, consequentialism. It's a lovely word. Um, Now, see, when we were talking about this, I was talking about that that Machiavellian thing.
Yeah.
The ends justify the means, and we were trying to find a word that that sums that up.
Well, there's
As
also
because
that
we were,
plus the propensity for them to just go on their own way and leave a trail of destruction behind them,
yes,
but bear no responsibility for their part in that
right,
trail of destruction.
right. Can you say Antifa? Um,
Exactly.
but that's what we were doing. We're trying to figure out how to express that idea, the ends justify the means, as a value. Because that's what we were doing. We were trying to figure out a lot of these values that we can apply to the lunocrat left, but not. These values don't apply to them exclusively. As I've said, these values apply to almost anyone of an extremist bent.
Well, that they actually apply to most of the population. It's just the lunocrats and the far right tend to crank it up to 11.
Yes, they really do. And it's true. Antifa is a prime example of that. They're burning trash, breaking windows, invading spaces because everything's a space now.
I love my school. Keep the fascists away from my school because I love my school, so I go and set fire to it. There's just
Yeah. See what the fascists did to my school? See what the fascists made me do to my school?
yeah,
Bullshit.
that's
You did it.
exactly
Clean
what
it
it
up.
is.
You know what it is? And I'm going to put it in rather graphic terms. It's people who can't wipe their own asses, or rather, they can't be bothered to wipe their own asses. They took a shit, and they expect you to wipe their ass for them. Well, no.
It's that guest that
How
comes
about
around to
that?
the house, takes a dump on the carpet, and expects you to clean it up.
You know, it's when the likes of Black Lives Matter get involved and burn down a black neighborhood, and someone and expects someone else to chip in to help rebuild it. No, no, you tore it down. You built it back
Yes,
up.
it's like an abuser blaming their victim. Exactly.
Very much so. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's that guy in that tank top with the armpit
That
stains.
that right there exactly describes the Lunacrats.
He's in the back of his hand is callous because that's what he used to keep hitting his family, and it's their fault because his toast was a little dark one day.
Yeah, he didn't hurt your face with his hand. You hurt his hand with your face.
Right. Because he was forced to punch you around the kitchen for a while because his breakfast was a little
Mm.
cold because he took too long in the shower. This is why the aliens won't talk to us. Just to be clear. Yeah, exactly. She asked for it mentality. That's bullshit, though.
And this basically
Well,
stems
it's
from a
not. It's
participation trophy mentality.
well, yeah, but it was around before that too. But it
Oh
is
yeah,
the
it
same
was.
mentality.
It was,
It's that
and
same.
I'm pretty sure a lot of it stems from the participation trophy. Yeah, it makes everybody feel good, but it also reduces everybody to mediocrity. There's nobody who can excel. There's nobody who can fail.
Right.
And if you're
But they,
mediocre and have no chance of ever being anything other than mediocre, that frustrates a human being.
well, if you're going to get awarded anyway, why try?
Yeah, exactly.
Once you figure out that all you have to do is show up and you're going to get rewarded for it anyway, you stop trying. It's almost as if it's designed to prevent people from trying to achieve.
Well, any achievement challenges the narrative. We don't want you to
Well,
get
yes,
too smart so you can ask questions. We don't
we
want you to
don't
get
want you to
too
get too
smart so
smart. We
you
don't
can see
want you
the
to.
flaws in our logic.
We want you to be satisfied with less.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a very
And hey, guess what?
sophisticated way to put that idea into people's heads.
And hey, guess what? We will legislate to give you less for free.
Yep.
You've got everything you could need now
We're
because
going
we
to
say this
legislate
is
to
all
give
you
you
need.
less and take more.
Hmm.
That's not a free society.
And they've got the delusion that everybody's going to be poor and happy.
Yeah. And it is delusional. I mean, that's the whole thing about socialism. Because that's a big part of this neo-Marxist thing is socialism.
Yeah.
Everyone's out there. "Oh, socialism's great. Never been tried." Well, here's the funny thing about it. You're free to be a socialist. I just don't see anyone throwing extra money at the government of their own accord. So it's also a hypocrisy. All these people touting socialism had better damn well start living up to the hype
Oh, yeah.
before you make it legislation.
I mean, if this is the way that you are convinced is the best way to live, there are plenty of flyover states in America where you can set up a town or a city that lives by those values, but none of them want to go
Yeah,
and do that.
of course not, because they know it's going to be bad for them to do it.
Yeah.
They want everyone else to do it so that the burden is taken off them. But what they don't realize is the more you inject government into such things, the more the burden increases on everybody. That's why I don't want the government involved in keeping YouTube, Facebook, and Google honest.
I don't know how many of you have heard of the fable of the ant and the grasshopper.
I haven't, at least not that I know of, not yet.
It's basically the ant spends the whole year collecting food and taking it down to his
Bro,
burrow, well, colony or what, his hole in the ground where ants live.
yeah,
And while he's doing that, the grasshopper's just hopping around the meadows, having a whale of a time, amusing himself and doing nothing productive.
so it's the movie Ants, or is it Bugs?
It basically is the movie
A Bug
Bugs.
Story.
It basically is the movie A Bug's Life.
Oh, yeah, that's the one. Yep.
And then the winter comes, and the ant has got his nice warm little ant hole with loads of food in it, and then the grasshopper comes knocking on the door saying, "Give me some of your food because I'm hungry and I'm cold." And the ant turns around and says, "No, fuck you. You didn't do any work when you should have been working to get the things that you needed. So therefore,
Right.
screw you. I've
Yeah.
got
Live
my
and learn,
stuff.
basically.
Yeah. But what we're talking about with the leftocrats is they are looking at those who have aspired to be more than mediocre, made something of themselves, accumulated some wealth, accumulated some status, accumulated the good things that come with actually putting yourself out there, taking risks, and achieving. Because the leftocrats, they've never achieved anything. They've just sat on their ass and expected the government to hand out everything that they could possibly need. So then they
Right.
see rich people and they go, you've got stuff that I should have. You worked for it? Well, that doesn't matter. I should have it too. So therefore, you should give me your stuff.
Yep.
And that's what this all boils down to, is the entitlement again.
Well, you know how you want to talk entitlement? You know how in America Congress is allowed to vote itself a pay raise.
Yeah.
Um, well, what the way it happens is the lunocrat left also vote themselves a pay raise. That's what they're doing when they're voting certain people into office. They know that they're going to get something more out of it. They know that their benefit package will increase,
Yeah.
or they believe that their benefit package should increase with so and so in office. That's their motivation.
And Kitten, yeah, you are
It's,
right. They did change that story
of
because
course they did,
because
because they have to
indoctrinate.
put that idea out there that sharing means caring. Well, not always. Sometimes caring means letting someone fail.
It's the early
So
stages of indoctrination because that story is
yes,
generally told to very young children.
yes, and you have to let people fail. If people don't fail, they don't learn anything. They can't improve if their success or if their lack of success is compensated for.
Oh, you learn far more from your failures than you ever do from your successes.
Yes, absolutely, you do. The thing is, the failures we have now, um, at least in space, in like YouTube, for example, these failures are not legitimate. I think because they're manufactured. YouTube is trying to manufacture failure for a specific group of people.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that with all the manufacturing they do, the people that are supposed to be failing according to this manufacturing aren't. If anything, they're getting the Streisand effect going on.
A bit, I mean, but I'm my stuff's pretty stagnant, and I'm really that's the only real expertise I have is the experience I have
Well, my stuff is
personally.
stagnant, but that's because I've been a grasshopper and haven't produced anything.
Well, yes, there is that. The most I produce is American reality. This Lopez and Moosecow on occasion, and I participate in other people's stuff too when the topic is appropriate to
Yeah.
my field of interest. And then she makes bread and they all come running and she eats it in front of them without a care. Good call.
Oh yeah, I know the one you're talking about now.
That's how do we? There's only so many ways you can fight this particular system. Hey, it's Gunny. Sharing is for the weak. I like Viking economics. Oh, I love it when Gunny comes in with a piece of particular Gunny wisdom. It's fantastic. Well, yeah, but Gunny's basically saying the same thing. Live and learn.
Yeah.
You didn't prepare for the failure. Well, tough shit. Now you have to deal with the failure. That's going to teach you how to deal with the failure.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. We'd be a much better society if we didn't turn a safety net into a career choice.
I really, really hate to do this to Adam Savage.
Oh, what now you're typing at Adam Savage?
I wish. Hello, Adam. There's a phrase that Adam Savage used on MythBusters, and it's actually a play on something from Star Wars, I believe. And it's meant to be humorous, but apparently some
Oh,
people took it to
can,
heart.
can I just say I've got a bad feeling about this?
What's that?
Well, I was actually playing with the most commonly used phrase in Star Wars.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Not a huge Star Wars fan. I've watched them all like once or twice, and that's about it. Well, the first three anyway. I refuse to watch any of the new ones.
I'm kind of in that camp at this point too. But anyway, what did Adam Savage say?
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
Ah, well, yeah,
That seems to be a life mantra for the Lunacrats.
well, yeah, it is a rejection of reality.
Yeah.
I mean, facts are racist. I mean, we've heard that one.
Except for our facts, which are truth.
You know, science is racist.
And no
Science is
logic can
sexist.
prove differently.
You know, somehow because what was that? There's that one in South Africa where the gal was trying to push the idea that these tribal elders or whatever who believed in the lightning or something, and curses and whatnot, and doing their traditional what do you call it? I don't know, the traditional mumbo jumbo thing where they toss a curse at someone. I don't know what it's called. I can't think of the word at the moment. But she claimed that was scientific and that white man science is somehow colonizing or what, I don't know, whatever jargon they use in place of English.
Oh, there was extreme mental gymnastics.
Yeah, it was like
Mental parkour.
psychotically so. Yeah. And I got news for you, lady. May the force take from doers and give to the weak. Well done, Gunny. I got news for that lady. You know, mumbo jumbo aside, well, not even aside, but the mumbo jumbo does not change the laws of physics. It doesn't change the laws of how energy and matter interact. In short, it's poppycock.
And it also doesn't change basic entry-level human biology.
Right. Oh, Gunny, brilliant quote from Predator 2. Fucking voodoo magic man. Wait, it was either Predator 2 or one of the Seagal movies. God. Oh yeah, I know. It was one of the. It was the Seagal movie with a 3-word title. Don't get me started.
Don't ask me. They
all have 3-word titles.
Never been a fan of Seagal, so I don't know really any of his
For the
movies.
longest time, the Seagal movies had 3-word titles: Above the Law, Out for Justice. God, I can't remember them all now.
Lather, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, you know, that's yeah. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Seagal because I find him remarkably boring. Yes, it was Predator 2. I thought as much. King Willie. No, it wasn't King Willie. It was one of the guys who worked for King Willie. I think Predator 2 is an underrated movie, and I'll say that to my dying day. I thought it was great because it took the idea and spun it off in a completely different direction. In a way that still very much made sense. And who doesn't love a movie with Morton Downey Jr. as a hack TV reporter? I mean, because he was basically playing himself. I loved it.
For the longest time, I confused Morton Downey Jr. and Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, it's a weird.
Would have made
it's
for an
one of those-
interesting and obnoxious Iron Man.
Oh God! All right, Internet Rule 34. Go out, find all of Robert or Morton Downey Jr.'s dialogue and work it to replace Tony Stark's or Robert Downey Jr.'s dialogue and put Morton Downey Jr.'s head on Tony Stark. I want to say this. You have 10 minutes.
It would just make a. That would actually make a really brilliant villain.
Yeah, it would. Oh, good God. The idea is killing me. That would be hilarious. Ugh.
You just want to go all Roddy Piper on his ass and put him out with a fire extinguisher.
You just go up to him, and in that Roddy Piper voice, they put on the glasses.
I've come here to kick ass and chew bubble gum. And I'm all out of bubble gum.
I wish after that Roddy Piper would have gotten better movies. I really, because he wasn't a great actor, but he was entertaining.
Yeah. Well, the thing with They Live is they allowed him to ad-lib parts of it, and that's where the bubblegum line came from, because that wasn't in the script.
Ah, well, that explains it. I mean, because, the guy may not have been an actor, but he was entertaining as all hell.
He could talk.
I mean,
you give him a microphone and he would just go.
Yeah, I mean, he was brilliant at that. Could you imagine him if he was still alive doing like talk radio and stuff now? Or doing a podcast or something? It would be brilliant.
He used to do a podcast, and they literally were amazing.
God, it would be fun. That guy could be in anything, and he would be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Jesse Ventura is very much the same way. I think a lot of the people in the wrestling business are like that, or a lot of the talent in the wrestling business,
especially the old school talent. Not so much the ones who've come through in the last 10 years or so. I think The Rock was probably about the last that you're probably going to see for a while.
No, Dave Bautista's actually making some good progress. The guy who plays Drax the Destroyer on Guardians of the Galaxy, he has got some great comedic timing.
He came in just before the wrestling business became too scripted, though. When the performer actually had to develop their own character.
Yeah, but he's hilarious. Yeah, Jesse Ventura is Jesse Ventura is right about a lot of things, but he's a bit kooky too.
But when he's wrong, it's spectacular.
Yeah. But my God, could you imagine someone like Jesse Ventura in the White House? Holy hell!
Do you know, for a while I thought that may actually be a possibility of happening.
Yep, me too.
Because there was a while when he was the governor of Minnesota that I thought, well, this is the sort of guy who's going to at least make a run at the White House, but he chose not to.
Well, you see, the one thing that I think Ventura's got going for him is that he does love the Constitution. He's all for it as much as I am, but he's also a little he's kookier about it than I am too. Let's say that.
He also has the advantage that when he was a wrestler, he wrestled as a heel. It was his job to make people hate him. So if people are going to disagree with him, he ain't going to give a shit.
Well, no, and he said himself that the reason he won in Minnesota was because he was able to be in the debates.
Yeah.
And the way it's set up at the presidential level, the Democrats and the Republicans have made it almost impossible for a third-party candidate to get into the debates.
Yeah.
I mean, it's collusion, essentially. That's why I can't stand the party system in politics.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump, I think, was very smart to choose to run on the Republican ticket because he saw what needed to be tapped into in America.
Yeah.
And he saw how to use it.
I mean, that's the thing that always makes me laugh is when you get these pundits on CNN that say Trump's an idiot. And I go, well, if you're smarter than Trump, how come you're not president?
That's an unfair assessment.
Trump is
I mean, that
Trump
assumes
is
that these
brilliant
people
in the
want to
fact
be
that
president.
he's hugely intelligent. You don't become a billionaire by being a dumbass. He's
Oh
hugely
yeah, I agree.
intelligent, but he plays the buffoon well as well.
Yeah, well, he knows how to play the buffoon and when.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. When he's doing the Twitter thing, that's all trolling.
Oh yeah.
That's he knows that they're going to be after him for no matter what he says. So he uses that to his advantage. He's a
Exactly.
master at using um, a weakness as a strength, you might say.
Yeah. And he doesn't always get it right, but who does?
Well, no one always gets it right. Look at his stance on video games. I mean, his stance on that flies in the face of all the data that's been collected thus far. And all the data pretty much says that video games do not cause violence. Hell, even the violent crime stats have been going down for decades.
Oh
It
yeah.
has nothing, the school shooting thing, that's nothing new. They got to stop treating it like it's something new.
The only
You know,
reason I think the only reason those seem far more frequent is because now we've got 24-hour news coverage. We've got the internet, which means anything that happens anywhere is
right. I
instantly
mean,
all over the world.
you get a shooting in Frog Balls, Arkansas at a school. First, the media is going to cover it. Then it's going to be all over Facebook. Then there's going to be all the YouTube commentary.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be all the counter commentary and all the comment stuff in the comment sections on Facebook. And then the news media is going to cover it again because there's an update. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the intersection. Oh God, it's the intersection of different types of media
Yeah.
that make it seem like it's more prevalent than it really is.
I mean, I've not looked into any of this, but I'm wondering if the amount of school shootings over the last 25 years, just as an arbitrary number, which I think is going to cover the whole era of the internet, over the last 25 years is any different to the previous 25 or the 25 before that.
That would be an interesting thing to look at.
Yeah.
Arthur's got a good point. A shooting in Frog Balls, Arkansas would be 30 guys blasting holes in an idiot shooter. Patriarch says, want to stop school shootings? Take all the money given to illegal aliens and put it into mental health services. A happy person has never shot anyone. Oh, I agree. I've said before, I forget where because this subject is the one that won't die, and I've been going on about it for a while. In that case in Florida with the Parkland thing, the existing infrastructure, the government agencies involved, school, FBI, local police, at every level, it was an absolute and complete failure to act. On the part of the school, on the part of the sheriff's office, on the part of the FBI. These agencies, these state agencies, failed everyone, including the shooter. If that kid had been processed through the system properly, he could have gotten the help he needed that would have prevented him becoming a shooter.
Yeah.
That's the part no one talks about, is that kid was failed too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, in 10 years, maybe 20 years, when he develops the intellectual fortitude to realize what he's done, maybe realize why he did it, and that's if he gets that far in the prison system. I doubt he will. But he's going to recognize it too. He's going to wonder one day why no one bothered to give him the help he needed. He needed help. All the signs were there. He needed the help, and no one lifted a damn finger. Why? Political expediency.
Well,
Let's see what Gunny wrote.
the people that did lift a damn finger did what they were supposed to do, but then it went on to the next step, and the next step just fucked it. Because there were plenty of people that were making the report saying there's something not right here, do something, and that's as far as it went. The people who were supposed to have stepped in didn't.
and it's and you want to get that's the part that boggles me. If this stuff had been handled um, a different way, if this stuff was out of the state's hands, if this was a private business kind of scenario, it wouldn't have escalated to this point. The state, like I said, these are state agencies. The school is a state agency. I'm not
Mm.
going to stop saying it.
Public schools are state
Yes, the
agencies.
public schools are state agencies. They are agents of the state. People got to start remembering that, and they've got to start holding them accountable in that light. Um, if there had been a private agency involved, it would never have gotten this far because it would have been bad for business.
Yeah.
That's the problem with giving the government too much power. Is when the government has too much power, it's not a question of what's bad for business.
I mean,
It's just a question of political expediency.
the thing with that whole situation is it was handled catastrophically. If it had only just been handled badly, we would have still not have had the shooting.
Oh yeah, exactly. If it had been handled badly, they probably would have. Fucking Gunny. Um, if it had been handled badly, he probably would have gotten onto the grounds and been stopped.
He might not have even gotten to the grounds because it had just been shuffled around the system. But at
Well,
least
yeah,
he
but
would have
then at
been in
least
the
he would have been
system.
in.
The
Yeah,
system never got
as
its
it
hands
stands
on him.
now, it looked like every aspect of the system decided to disavow his existence.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the lunocrat left wants people like this to have more power? I don't think so. People like this are the problem.
Yeah, because taking the guns away from the good guys is not going to stop the bad guys getting hold of the guns.
No. Bad guys are called bad guys because they're bad.
And they say there's I don't know who said it, but bad guys are stopped by good guys with guns. And the left go, oh no, they're not because there's no such thing as a good guy with a gun. Well, every school shooting has always been stopped by a police
Someone
officer.
armed.
Yep, usually a police officer who is
Well, yeah,
a
that's the
good
funny
guy
thing
with
is,
a gun.
in general, yes. But that's the other funny thing is, let's face it, that sheriff's department was not full of good guys.
No, I don't know what the
A
hell is
good guy
going on
would
there,
have.
but no.
There were two other officers who were suspended from a different police agency because they were going in.
Oh, the SWAT team.
Yeah, the two guys from
Yeah.
the SWAT team who heard about it and they were heading toward the shooting, and they got suspended because they didn't get permission first.
Rhetorical just nailed it. You stab someone, you're a bad person. You shoot someone, the gun's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like I said, the Second Amendment is there because the people have a duty to be part of maintaining the security of a free state.
Yeah.
Now, who advantages from diminishing the people's ability to maintain the security of a free state? Tyrants.
Yep.
And a tyrant doesn't have to be someone in government. A tyrant is a bully. I mean, you guys they keep going on about anti-bullying culture. When, we got to be against bullying. Well, here you're creating a a breeding ground for bullies if you disarm law-abiding citizens. That's not very anti-bullying now, is it? I'm about to get angry about it. These people got to start thinking this stuff through because it's insane not to think it through.
That's the problem, though. They don't think it through. They only go as far as their own ideology. But
Right.
we have hit the 3-hour mark on Lopez and Moosecow. So I think it
Well,
is about...
I'm showing 2.5, but it is about 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And Maddie's show will be on in about a half hour.
So we're giving you all a chance to go and make yourself a cup of coffee or tea if you want to drink
Make your
that still.
coffee, have a piss,
grab a
Hell,
sandwich and get ready for the morning brew, which is now exclusive to Twitch. If anybody would like to shill the morning brew, I don't have a link to Maddie's channel handy, but if
yeah,
somebody
neither
would
do
be
I
so
at the
good as
moment, but
to,
I'm about to dig one up and just put it in the description on my
and
channel.
if you
If
can,
I can remember how, I'm an idiot.
well, even if you just throw it into your live chat.
I'm working on it,
Um,
but I can't brain. Oh, self promotion. There we go. Now I got to go find it. I'm getting there, people. Just give me a minute. No, that's YouTube. Come on, Maddie. There it is. Uh-oh.
uh-oh. Uh-oh's never a good
Yep.
thing to hear.
No, I got it. There we go. All right, I'm put it in my chat and in my description.
So I encourage you all to go and have a look in at the morning brew, keep up with what's going on in the world, and
Let's see.
basically to mock Merlin.
Oh, don't mock him too hard. He's got a beard. Don't expect me to understand how that's relevant. I don't understand it. Just because I say it doesn't mean I understand it.
Yes. The morning brew presented by Madwoman and the fourth member of ZZ Top.
Yeah, and the unsung fourth member of ZZ Top,
ZZ
because
Bottom.
that's how it works. AA bottom.
Maddie's very own version of Not Gay Jared. Yeah.
Yes. All right. I think that's going to be it for us this morning.
It is. Thanks everybody for watching, and don't forget to join us again next time we're on. When that will be, fuck only knows, because we make this shit up as we go.
Damn straight.
Until next
Thanks
time.
for showing up.
Au revoir, tatty bye bye, and don't forget to leave your
Auf
moose cow.
Wiedersehen. Au revoir. See you later.
Don't forget to massage your moose cow.
Whoa.